This is Joe Pugh for IFLTV. Monday morning, back at it, new week, more stories, never stops. Gareth, you all right, mate?
We're on the merry-go-round, my brother. How are you?
I'm all good. I'm all good. Yeah, look, a busy week last week. A lot of stories breaking as ever. We'll start off with Michaela Mayer and Sandy Ryan. Did you watch that fight early hours of Sunday morning, G?
I did indeed. I got back from Talk Sports. Clocks went forward now, so it made it a little easier. It was like 2:30 when I got home, rather as opposed to 1:30. And yeah, different levels. I think she proved that she is world class. Well, we know she's world class, but she proved it again. Much busier fighter. Definitely won the first 5 rounds. Sandy Ryan came into it a little bit more towards the end. You could have given her 2 or 3 rounds, but clearly a Michaela Mayer win. Onwards and upwards to Lauren Price or Alicia Baumgardner now for me.
Yeah, look, we know the history with Baumgartner, which would be probably the bigger fight, but probably selfishly for us as Brits, that Lauren Price fight's massive, isn't it?
It is undisputed welterweight 147. I make Lauren Price a big favourite in that elusive movement, southpaw. I think she'll be quicker to the punch. I think she is quicker to the punch. Obviously, you've got the form book of Tasha Jonas beating Michaela Mayer and almost a shutout for Jonas against Jonas by Price at the Albert Hall a few weeks back. Um, but it's a fight that can be made. It needs to be made over here.
Yeah, look, I know obviously Katie Taylor Serrano 3 is coming. We don't know what's happening with the likes of Chantel Cameron, Claressa Shields, but feels like that fight between Price and Mayer could claim stake to a top spot in the pound for pound list. Not number one, but the pound for pound female rankings will be right up there.
No, Lauren's got work to do yet before she's right up at the top of the pound for pound list. I think she's big enough to face Claressa Shields. I think that's a pound for pound fight. But if she beats Mayer and wins all the belts at 147, she could easily step up to 154 and fight Claressa. I think that might get close to being a pound for pound number one contest. Um, Obviously, you can't deny Serrano and Taylor that position as well. But we're talking top three, top four girls there in the world.
All right, let's go back a further 24 hours to Altrincham, Planet Ice. Did you watch the debut of Patrick Bomber Brown, Gareth?
Yeah, and indeed spoke to him on Talk Sport on Saturday night as well. Very exciting prospect. More than a prospect in lots of ways. The difficulty is going to be holding him back. We were salivating on Saturday night at the thought of he against Alois Jr. What a fight that's going to be when those two eventually meet, probably a year or year and a half down the line. I think they'll move Pat quite smartly. Um, he's got a lot of talent and a lot of power. So and a following already, which, as we know, with people like Johnny Fisher and others, it's so important to have a following. If you've got a following, have boots, will travel, book the tickets. Simple as that.
Over the past 20 years, Manchester's been a hotbed of big followings from Ricky Hatton going into Anthony Crolla. Could we have the next big Manchester star on our hands in Pat Brown?
Yeah, there's no question about it. And speaking to him on Saturday night, he's a very humble, modest, but engaging character who's been brought up all his life by his father, who was obviously a boxer in the gym. He's always stayed on the right side of the tracks. He's handsome and popular. All of those things, got all the credentials to drive a big Manchester crowd. The secret now is, can he do it at the very alive cruiserweight division? And he's got lots of opponents, both domestically and internationally, that he can compose that record based on. He's going to be an exciting fighter. He's got the style. He's got it all. That's why there was such a big, noisy, um, debut and also a big noise around the promotion of him under Eddie Hearn and Matchroom for that opening press conferences up in Manchester.
Just a couple of things from your TalkSport show I want to ask you about, Gareth. First
Derek,
of all, yeah, we'll start off with the man, the myth, the legend that is Derek Chisora. Mandatory for that IBF world title. He said he's going to be patient. His last fight will be for that world title. Yeah, it was an interesting phone call, wasn't it? With Ben Shalom making a brief cameo.
on his shoulder like a parrot. I don't mean that in a rude way. Suddenly there was Ben Shalom on his shoulder on his mobile phone in the box at the Usher concert. I think it was at the O2, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah. Look, Derek's always big value, whatever he's doing. And as he said, if I have to wait for a world title now, I'll be patient. Derek's always great value. He was on the show on Saturday night. He I don't know what Ben Shalom was doing in the box with him. He made fun of it and made fun of the fact that Ben Shalom's losing his contract. He needs a big star like me. As I say, Derek always likes to play in that way. But I do understand what he's saying, that it's worth him waiting at the moment because he's in a great position. Put it this way, if Anthony Joshua had just beaten Joe Joyce and Otto Wallin, he'd be looking at a world title next. So even though Derek's older, we know it's his 50th fight, he's putting himself out there for potential fights with Daniel Dubois, with Alexander Usyk. Who knows? You look at the heavyweight division at the moment. We know Frank Warren is pushing the Dubois-Usyk fight, and that may well come to fruition. But if Dubois ends up fighting Parker and they reschedule that fight and Usyk needs a fight, Derek's there in position. So who knows what's going to happen at the moment? And I just mentioned Anthony Joshua there. Joshua's recovering. Wilder's coming back. He's expected to knock out the opponent they've just announced. Could they do Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua? Could it be Joseph Parker and Anthony Joshua next? Does that mean that Derek gets to fight Dubois? That's the only fight I don't particularly want to see him in, by the way, against Daniel Dubois. That I just don't like it at all for him.
Yeah, just on Deontay Wilder, were you shocked to see him return off the back
No,
of those Parker and Zhang defeats?
no, no, because he's not a guy of his standing and what he's been through. Whether he is completely gone or not, he needs to know it, I think, and that's what's happening for him at the moment. I'm just trying to remember the opponent now. Do you recall? I've
I
got it
don't
written
recall
down.
his name, but that interesting photo come out. I don't know if you see it, where from about 5 years ago, where he had a photo with Deontay Wilder and said, "I hope to one day fight him." Um,
Yeah, it's Tyrell Herndon.
yeah,
Um, yeah, exactly. Look, it's a fanboy fight for Herndon. Can Wilder pull the trigger? That's what he needs to do. If he can, maybe gets one more fight against one of the top heavyweights. Maybe Joshua. Would you watch that?
we all would watch that. We've wanted that for years,
Yeah,
Gareth.
exactly. Exactly.
There was a video that come out on TalkSport, I think, on Thursday or Friday, where your mate Spencer Oliver, your better mate Simon Jordan, were speaking about the Johnny Fisher, Big John debacle. And I know you've spoken about it kind of enough now, but something Simon Jordan said is I wanted to kind of get your opinion on, where he said, I'm all for piling on Gareth A Davies. I don't think much of him myself. What is going on with you and Simon Jordan?
Listen, it's just the Cape Crusader for boxing having a little pop. Nothing more than that. He always has a little pop. I'm used to it now. I think Simon, in recent times, I'm going to be fair to him. I think he's been spot on boxing. Sometimes I didn't agree with him in the past when he was critiquing certain people, and I'd said he had lacked empathy. I think he's been on the money recently. I really do. So I'm not going to have a go at him at all. He likes to have a little pop. I take it as a compliment. It's just It's just professional rivalry. Um, I think he believes that I didn't go hard enough on Conor Benn during that whole case. Um, but there's I've been consistent about it all along. No, I've no issue at all with Simon Jordan. He's great for boxing on Talksport, and he's a colleague in that sense. He just likes having a pop. He has a pop at everyone, so it doesn't bother me in the slightest.
Do you think we'll ever see you two on a show or a podcast chewing the fat?
Yeah, if Talksport sees fit to put us together, but it's going to be, you know, I leave his big battles to Eddie Hearn. Like to see those two in a ring together, to be honest.
Who would win that?
Eddie Hearn,
Stoppage?
yeah, early.
Simon isn't going to like that. Simon will not like that, Gareth.
Well, I mean, listen, it's all a bit of fun. I don't really. Simon's had issues with his health recently.
Of course.
Eddie, and when Eddie and Simon lock horns, it's always fascinating. They're big hitters, both of them. So, long may that continue.
Talking of Eddie Hearn, his media tour with Frank Warren this week is still a bit mad to see. They've done about 10 hours of back-to-back media. Do you still sometimes think, wow, we're in a bit of a mad situation after 15 years of hating each other?
I enjoy the rivalry. I'm glad they talk about competition and rivalry. I'm sure it will return. They're both on the same platform now on DAZN. It launches, Queensberry launch on DAZN this weekend with the big heavyweight show, Frank's big heavyweight show in Manchester. Talksport are there, by the way. I'm in absentia this week because I'm going to America to cover an event, working with the great Mike Goldberg on commentary at Myrtle Beach. Bare Knuckle 39, I think it is, where Jack Marshman, who you'll know from the UFC, is fighting Cub Hawkins for the BKB cruiserweight title. It's live on Talksport as well, by the way, that on the Talksport YouTube channel. So it's all happening. It's an incredibly busy period, but I'm glad they're working together, and we might need that now. Just as I heard at the weekend, which I didn't mention, Bob Arum giving an interview, I think to Boxing Social, to Matt Lennon, our mate Matt Lennon, saying that he's going to work together with PBC and Al Heyman more, which again was needed. I'm really pleased to hear that.
Okay, yeah, you did mention this Saturday, just kind of closing up. Still going ahead with the show. Replacement of Dillian White is Philip Hrgovic, who takes on Joe Joyce. How do you see that fight going?
Well, first of all, I think it's a big risk and reward fight for Joe Joyce. It's a bigger reward fight if he can beat Philip Hrgovic, who I rank about eight in the world at the moment, round about eight, nine in the world, who's still challenging. Obviously, he's had the setback of the defeat against Daniel Dubois in one of his finest performances, frankly, young Dubois. Notwithstanding the victory over Anthony Joshua last September, but that really signalled that he was a coming of age fight. Hrgovic is still dangerous. He Joe Joyce could have beaten Dillian White, and people would have said, "Oh, the jury's still out on where he belongs." If he can beat Philip Hrgovic in a more difficult fight, I think technically more difficult, because Hrgovic hits you with punches that come upwards. People always talk about this with him when they spar with him. He hits you with punches you don't see coming. And obviously, those are the most dangerous, as we always say in boxing. If Joe can pull off a victory, if he can bring back some of his best form, and I think he'll be talked about as potentially fighting people in the top 10 above Hrgovic, the likes of Anthony Joshua and people. You think about when he beat Daniel Dubois and he beat Joseph Parker 3 years ago. Look how we were salivating at the prospect of him fighting the top five in the world. At the moment, he's in no man's land, in limbo. So it's a brilliant fight for him. I think it's a very tough fight. I see Hrgovic as the favourite, but I'm really looking forward to it. Joe needs to throw back the years and get in there and start fast, start early. I know that isn't Joe necessarily, but he needs to go in there and land early and get the respect of Hrgovic and push him back.
Very last one. We've spoke about all these heavyweights, certainly on this interview, and kind of in this boxing sphere, no one really knows who's going to fight, whether it's going to be Parker Dubois rescheduled or Usyk Dubois. So I'm going to throw a few heavyweight names at you, and I want you to give who you think will be their next opponent. And we'll start off with Daniel Dubois.
Alexander Usyk 1, Parker 2. Chisora a very, very long 3. I don't want to see that.
All right, Derek Chirsora.
If Parker and Dubois fight, Usyk. Otherwise, as he said on Saturday night, he's going to wait out and try and wait for a world title shot, but that might be a very long wait.
Ajit Kabayel.
Potentially in Germany, and the winner of Bacoli and Ajegba.
Two more. Moses Atalma.
Nelson Hussa in Glasgow. I don't know if that's true, but that could be potentially against him, and I think it's a good challenge for him. Justice Hooney later in the year.
And last one, Anthony Joshua.
Joseph Parker, or which is a fight I'd like to see. Joseph Parker or Deontay Wilder.
You're still pretty confident that Tyson Fury would beat Joshua, going off your comments on TalkSport, aren't you?
Yeah, I still think he's the favourite in that fight, but I just don't think he's got his mind on the game at the moment. He's got his mind on the beautiful game and Wayne Rooney and managing the England, Celebrity England guys against who are they up against? You know,
It's the rest of the world 11.
the rest of the world 11 in the UNICEF game. So raising money for UNICEF. So yeah, I just don't think he's got his mind on the prize at the moment, and I get that speaking in the background to his manager Spencer Brown and Tyson Fury and Frank Warren and Bob Arum saying the same, like stay retired, Tyson, you're fine. Just come back when you're hungry again. And before we do go, April 16th in Westminster, 1 p.m. Look out for all the social media on it. Michael Watson's walking a mile. Obviously he's 60 now and he's walking a mile in memory of the marathon that we did with him 22 years ago that took us 6 days. So look out for that. Please join us on the 1 mile walk, April the 16th, 1 p.m. Westminster.
Will you be there, Gareth?
Yeah, I'm doing it with him. Yeah, I'm writing a piece, doing a bit of talk sport with him as well on the day, and with his consultant neurosurgeon Peter Hamlin, obviously, who I think it was 6, might have been 7 operations to save Michael's life. What a miracle he is.
Yeah, we'll definitely get down there on the 16th of April. We'll see you
Lovely.
there. Right, Gareth, enjoy stateside for the bare knuckle this week, and we will catch up with you next week, mate. See you soon.
Peace out.